control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. The claws in my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart. Controlling me, controlling me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. A little rainy outside tonight, but that's okay. We need the rain. I guess it's going to be raining for the next couple days here, so there will be all kinds of studio time in my future, which is good. Maybe I'll get a little more caught up on everything that needs doing, but just want to note that I just recorded an episode last night with Duke of his World Bigfoot Radio, and it was a great episode. It was a great discussion, great time, and I don't know exactly when it's releasing, when it's going to be out there, but I hope you guys will check it out. That should be out, I imagine, maybe in a week, perhaps longer. I don't know. But it was a lot of fun, and special thanks to Duke again for having me on and and letting me appear on the World Bigfoot Radio. It was a lot of fun, and I think it was a great show. I really do. I felt really good about it afterwards. In fact, I felt better about his show than I felt about our Wednesday show. I felt our Wednesday show last night was just kind of flat, and I apologize if that's the case. It's just, I guess every once in a while, some shows are going to feel heavier than others and not flow as well, and that's just the way it works. But I hope you guys enjoyed it all the same. And thank you to everybody who's been here, and thank you to all of you who've been supporting our podcast. The Friday episode will drop at midnight tonight, and I'd love it if you'd check it out. It's a show I recorded with our very own Cindy Goodbreak, and talking about her Bigfoot research, and from all the way down on the big thicket around Texas, all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. And it was a great conversation. Also, that was the show that I was talking to you guys about before, that I said, some weirdness happened. Lots of strangeness was going on. The board kept doing its own thing. I wouldn't even be touching it, and it would switch scenes and do all kinds of craziness. And that's when I asked you guys, so should I re-record it or just leave it as it is? And you guys voted unanimously to leave it as it is. And I kind of agree with you. I think it just kind of represents what goes on here to any new people out there, and maybe they'll be down with it, and maybe they won't. I don't know. But it's only the truth. I mean, I'm certainly not fabricating sensationalism for the sake of getting listeners. It's just things go sideways here in the portal, and I don't always know why. It was interesting because actually the Confessionals podcast released on Monday. Was it Monday? I think it was Monday, and he actually had a weird EVP come across on his recording, and it was really weird because they're having a Skype conversation, he and Tony and his guest, and it was like someone else broke in there. There was like a quick partial ring and somebody going, hello? It was very, very strange, and that shouldn't happen on Skype. That really shouldn't happen on Skype. So some real strangeness there, and if you haven't checked out that episode, definitely do it. It was a great show. I think he's actually released another one as well since then. So he's got a bunch out there. And there's a really cool story that was... Wes Germer did a Sasquatch Chronicles recently. He just released it. It was called I Quit. And before you get worried that he quit, it's just his... It was an amazing story of how he met Bob Gimlin, and I was really honored to hear it because it was actually the very same story that he shared here on the portal as he called in one night, and I just thought, wow, when I heard him, not only did he do it at his thing in Texas, but he did it on the show, and then he did his own Sasquatch Chronicles of that same story, and it's an amazing story, and it's one of those situations that, yeah. I've been there, and I'm kind of, have those situations. I think anybody that does a show has those situations where sometimes it's just hard to keep going. Sometimes it feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill, and I don't suffer the same kind of problems that he and Duke and a lot of people in the Bigfoot community do with the backstabbing kind of stuff that goes on. It's totally dramatic in the Bigfoot community, and it's really unfortunate. But just sometimes there's a whole bunch of other things in real life, and it just makes you think, God, how long can I continue doing this? But I love doing it, so I keep doing it. But that's his story of him being at that point, and just a really cool story. It actually gave me chills to hear it again. It's just a powerful story, so check out that on the Sasquatch Chronicles podcast as well. So that's enough laundry, I guess, for the time being. I hope you guys are ready because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now underway. The Bedtime Stories is currently commencing. Hopefully, if I ever get on with it, right? So let's see what's going on here. I got some stories pulled up for you guys. I hope you guys are doing great. I see a number of you are coming in, and still people are coming in the door. But thank you all for doing that. It's still, I never get tired of seeing those numbers climb when we go live and see everybody come in. It's like, wow, it's really humbling. It truly is. So what do I got for stories? Well, I got one that I pulled up, and I pulled this one up a few days ago on the last Bedtime Stories. I never did get to it, and there's a few of these on my browser bar, but this one sounds like there was other parts before it. It says it's about an office, and it says the final chapter. I'll read it because I don't know the narrative of it. I still haven't read it. So we'll see what it's all about. But what? Shadow passed by the camera. What's he talking? Oh, okay. I don't think he's talking about the show. All right. Somebody in the chat room said shadow passed by the camera real close. He must be meaning something else. I thought he was talking about in here. Could be. I did sage the house today, though, so hopefully the energy is lighter. It feels lighter. It feels better. But, all right, the first story tonight is coming out of Nebraska. Let's see what's going on in Nebraska. It says, I've sent in a few stories regarding my office and the occurrences that plagued me since moving in. Oh, I think this is the one that works in that secure area and had things out of place and ceiling tiles pulled out and no way to get up high enough to put them back in. And apparently a security guard wouldn't talk to her at work, but would talk to her later because they were also friends. and told her that there's some real strange things going on there. But that's a little bit of background if you don't remember it, if you didn't catch that show where I went over that story. But this appears to be a continuation. So to say this move has been interesting would be an absolute understatement. Taps on my shoulder, voices, conversations, being asked by disembodied voices to come home with me, doors opening and slamming shut, and it's certainly kept me on my toes. About a week ago, I had a minister come to my office after hours and bless my office, hoping to get rid myself of the entities that were really distracting me while I was working. And this really went rather well. No occurrences while he was there, and after he left, a feeling of peace for me that I hadn't experienced since I moved into the new office. Unfortunately, the facilities manager continues to look for employment elsewhere because of all the occurrences he's had. He refuses to even share most of them with me, saying he's still looking for logical reasons. Well, as I stated, my office itself has calmed down, and I've not had any experiences in at least the last 10 days. The rest of the building appears to still have something or someone plaguing them. Doors open and close, and others have reported hearing voices, and the security officer finds it fascinating. He likes to watch the doors on the security cameras, and he always checks each and every open and close, assuring that the building is not being broken into. He was not so happy the other day, though, after becoming locked in the garage for about 3 minutes. It was very close to the end of the workday, and he was making rounds, and he waved to me as he went by my office, and he carries a walkie-talkie as well as a cell phone, and he'd been gone for about a half an hour when the staff began noticing that he hadn't returned from his rounds. We tried calling him on his walkie-talkie, but there was no response at all, just crackling noises, and we tried his cell phone, and it went right to voicemail, and one of the maintenance workers and I decided to walk his rounds and locate him. And as we neared the garage at the end of what would have been his rounds, we heard knocking from the inside of the garage door. I used my master key and unlocked the door, and the security officer was in there knocking to get out. We asked him what happened and why wasn't he responding to the walkie-talkie or answering his cell phone, and he stated his cell phone never rang. He removed it from his pocket, and it was fully operational with a full signal. And I told him to check his voicemails, and sure enough, there were a couple messages from staff asking him where he was and if he was okay. He stated he could hear our voices coming through the speaker on his walkie-talkie, and he was responding, and I advised him all we heard was static on the other end. Apparently, as he walked by the garage on his rounds, he could hear movement and voices from inside of the garage, and there are no windows and only two-sided deadbolts on both the overhead and side doors. And thinking perhaps it was someone for maintenance, he unlocked the walk-through door just to check on things, and as he opened the door, he still heard the voices and could hear the movement. But it was dark, and it was hard to see, and he reached over and flipped on the light, and as he turned on the light, all the voices and the movement stopped, and the door slammed shut behind him. He did a quick look around the garage, not hard to do as the building is mostly empty space when none of the vehicles are there, and he didn't see anyone or anything out of order. He turned back to the door using his master key and tried to unlock the door, and he indicated the key would move and sound as if the door was unlocking, but it wouldn't open. He repeated this process a couple of times and tried also to unlock the overhead door with the same results. He then tried reaching someone in the office by the same means we were trying to reach him, the cell phone and the walkie-talkie, and he indicated this went on for about 3 minutes until we finally arrived. As we exited the garage, we could hear this laughter, like in a movie or a play, many voices laughing together, and then nothing. We headed back across the small lot to the office, and he confided in me that this made him uncomfortable. I do think that the activity has been removed from my actual office, but the grounds or buildings, as long as this, but not the grounds or buildings rather. And as long as this remains harmless, what else can be done? The officers of the business refuse to acknowledge that there is an issue at all. And I can concentrate now and don't feel the fear and anxiety that I did when it was in my office. Well, that's really amazing. Very mischievous, though. Very, very mischievous. And again, it's not dark activity. It's just activity. I don't know what these spirits deal with, after they pass. I don't know what they're going through, but they just seem real bored. And I guess screwing with us is the best thing to do. It's kind of funny because, again, we were talking about this last night, Duke and I, on the World Bigfoot Radio episode we were recording. It's like, for the Sasquatch and for these beings, we are the entertainment. There are so many stories and events of them looking in windows and just seeing what's going on, watching television through the windows and all of that. And I imagine if you're living in a forest all the time for decades, there comes a point where you've seen about all the forest has to show you. And so maybe some of the stuff we do is really exciting and intriguing to them, Well, maybe it's also similar for the spirits that are earthbound. Maybe it gets pretty tiring, and who knows how long they've been around. They could be around for centuries or longer. And so perhaps the people are the best way to pass the time. What are the people talking about? What are they doing? What can they do now? And seeing this, change in our technologies over long periods of time that they're able to sit there and watch. So, maybe we're a lot of things as entertainment. I don't know. But it seems if there's an intelligence, which there seems to be in these spirits, and there seems to be in these cryptids like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, etc., then, they just need to be stimulated somehow, because after a while, there's not much to do. So, pretty interesting. I guess we're the entertainments for the spirit world, too. I know this show is because of all the weirdness that happens here, but hopefully I've knocked it down for a while with the saging and stuff, but I guess we'll find out. I don't know. But very cool story. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Again, the phone lines are open, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel like you need to call in and, sharp pain. If you feel like you need to call in and be a part of the show, please feel free to 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500 is the phone number to call in to the show. So that's a good way to get a hold of us. Let's see what else is going on here. All right, I got a story out of South Carolina. All right, let's see what's going on there. A few days ago, my hubby was on the computer watching videos online, and he had his headphones on, and the volume was really loud, and everything was quiet, and I knew he had his headphones on, so I didn't try to talk to him. Right when I was about to get out of the shower, he asked me what I wanted, and I had no idea what he was talking about since I hadn't said anything to him. He said that he heard someone say his name, and he said it was a girl's voice, and he said it sounded really similar to mine. The exact same thing happened a day or so later. Other odd things had been happening recently as well. Nothing really scary or terrible, just weird. There was one day when I had already left for work and he was still home getting ready to go, and he tends to forget either his phone, keys, or wallet a lot. Well, on this day, he walked outside, locking the house behind him and thinking he had everything with him, and he went down to the truck only to find that he had left his keys in the house. He called me up and asked me what time I would be home from work since he locked himself outside and wasn't able to drive anywhere. I explained to him that I wouldn't be home for a while, so I guess he just went and sat in the truck to wait or something. He tried turning the ignition without the key, and to his surprise, it turned on. He was able to go to work on the other side of town and bank and even drive home, all without the keys. He tried doing that again to see if maybe the truck was messed up, but nothing happened. This all happened on the same day he heard the voice say his name for the first time. Another weird thing that happened took place just last night. We're in a drought right now where we live, but this is from 2007. And so when it started raining last night, we were both really excited. And after about an hour of listening to the rain on our tin roof, my husband realized that he had left the truck windows down. I've done that so many times. Oh my God. And then you go out and go to the store the next day, and it's like you sit down and it's this just brutal cold feeling just takes over your underwear. It's horrible. There's not much worse, I don't think, than wet underwear. If you got to sit in wet underwear for any period of time, it's pretty miserable. So he left the windows down. He panicked, thinking all his tools and such were getting wet, and he ran outside only to find that the windows were already rolled up. He came back in and started saying that his uncle must have come by and rolled them up for him, but until we found out his uncle had never come by last night, and he swears he left them rolled down, which makes sense since the truck doesn't have air conditioning and it gets really hot during the days out here. So how did they end up getting rolled up before it rained? Maybe it was the same spirit that had been calling his name, but I guess we'll never know. I do know that whoever the spirit might be, we are very grateful for the help. Yeah, that's good kind of help. That is. Sorry, I got a little film in my eye or something. I'll be right with you. Sorry. Just going to do something quick. Just a second. Please stand by. I'm going to burn some incense as well. Frank incense, as it were. It's good stuff. I really do advocate burning incenses and other oils and things like that. There's some things, if you have pets, though, you got to be careful with. I'm trying to remember what it is, but there's some kind of essential oil that people use often in diffusers, but I guess it's like literally toxic to pets, and that's not a good thing. So you got to be careful with that. But I don't burn anything like that, so I think we're okay. I think so anyway. But just a last step of my cleansing for the day. All right. Let me put this back up, and we'll be back to the next one. Ta-da. There we go. All right. So let's see. That was the helpful spirit. Yeah, good kind of spirit. And that's what I think. It'd be fine to have a ghostly presence that was really helpful. I mean, that would be, even wonderful if you had someone there that was kind of helping you just get through life, because life gets pretty heavy. Life gets so heavy sometimes. And it'd be nice to know there was some unseen presence that was always looking out for you. Some would say that that's faith, and that's true as well. And I don't mean to ever diminish, faith and the power of your faith and, having angels or whatever. But, another layer can't hurt either, though, right? So let's get to the next one, which is coming out of Diane Swiger's own Ohio. Ohio is always on the map, ladies and gentlemen, for the paranormal. A very, very bizarre state. And man, I picked a lot of long ones tonight. Or the other night that I didn't read. And maybe I didn't read them then because they were really long. Let me look at the next one. This one's moderate, not too bad. This one's pretty short. And then this one is pretty short too. So I guess just the first few of them have been really long. So out of Ohio, this person says, I'm 16 years old and have a ridiculous fascination with all things paranormal. Ever since I was a little girl, it seems I've experienced many different unexplainable situations. Starting when I was about 8, my mother and I have had to move from home to home after divorcing my father, and it seems each home we were moved into, something would happen. One of the first homes we lived in alone was a half double. I don't know what that means. If it's a prefab or is it a trailer home? I don't know. I was always afraid to sleep in my room alone. And I would often sleep in my mom's room with her, and there were many times I'd have to go to bed while she was still up, and I would sleep in her room, and her room was located at the very end of the hallway, and my room was off to the side, and I would always lay there still awake and hear things. I'd hear the doors from my room and the bathroom creaking like they were being opened really slow, and I understand that it could have been from a draft in the house, but I always had the gut feeling that it was really something else. We never stayed in a house for more than a year or two before moving again, and next we lived in another half double, and we had heard rumors that the street we moved to had really strong paranormal presences. It says existence, but presence I think is a better word. And it was a large Indian burial site. Oh, yeah. Where we lived in one side, the other was empty, and my mother began seeing a man who had a little boy of about 2 years old, and they would sometimes stay over. Okay. And we had a nice sized dining room, and that we pretty much used as a second living room, and there was a couch that we kept in there also, and I would often sleep in there at nights because I was really too afraid of sleeping upstairs alone. My mom would most likely always sleep in the living room. Okay, so nobody's sleeping in their bedrooms. But always through the night, I would actually be awoken to the sound of people walking across the floor. Excuse me. And that I was actually in. And the home was older, so the floors creaked horribly. And it always scared me, but I learned to deal with it and try to shut it out. One night, my mom and her boyfriend stayed over with his son, and the son was the type of kid who would just open doors on you and get into everything. And that's what 2 years old is. One morning, my mom woke me up for school to get ready, and I was in the bathroom getting ready, and my mom, her boyfriend, and his son slept in the living room. On the bathroom door, the lock was a hook kind of lock that just flipped over the hole, and I was sitting on the sink, pulling my hair back, when the doorknob started twisting and shaking, and all at the same time, as though someone were trying to get in. And I quickly was sure it was the little boy who had woken, so I immediately yelled out, "Hold on a second," and immediately it stopped. It was quiet. I jumped off the sink and opened the door, but nobody was there. So I went and woke my mom, and not to mention her boyfriend, and the kid was sound asleep, and I asked if she had needed the bathroom, and she said no. And I then asked her if one of the guys had woken up and needed it, and she said no. And there was no one else there or that lived there. After we moved, I had a dream of the house that I had walked in the house while it was empty, and the only thing there was a dead lady laying underneath the window in the living room. And I don't know if this was a message or just in my head. There are so many more stories. In one house we lived in, I stayed home one day alone, no one else in the home, and I was downstairs while my bedroom was at the top of the steps, and I had a baby doll that would pray when you put her hands together and they touched, and it wouldn't work any other way. And I was walking through when I heard the doll upstairs praying. I stopped at the bottom of the steps just listening, and there was no other sounds at all. I called my mom hysterically, crying and scared to death, and my mom is now remarried, and we just recently bought a home, and we've lived here for a little while, a little over a year now, and we have had lots of things happening. Within the first 2 months we lived there, things have happened. My bedroom has a huge closet with sliding doors. Inside them is a laundry chute that leads to the basement. Our basement is huge and in very good condition, and we have a living room down there as well, but the washer and dryer is right beside the chute. And one night I was talking on the phone, and it was late, and I heard what had sounded almost like a moaning sound of a man, but it was really masculine, and it sounded as if it was coming from the basement. Before I went to my room to go to bed, my stepfather was playing video games in his room which is directly across the hall from my room. It says my roof, but I'm sure she means room. And he is very into football and gets into it, yelling and such. And so at first I figured it was him, but I'd been in my room for a few hours since he'd been playing, and I kept hearing it, and I started to get that gut feeling as if something just wasn't right. And it was a very scary sound. So I opened my door, seeing right into my mom's room, and it was dark, and the TV was off. And I ran to the living room hysterical, and she was sleeping on the couch. And I was just shaking her to get up, and all I could yell was, "Where's Shane? Where's Shane?" Who's my stepdad. And she asked what was wrong over and over. And she said that he had gotten called into work over an hour ago. Well, I was terrified. My mom believes in spirits as well as I do, so she absolutely believes me. There was also a time when I was going to sleep, and it was late. And from my room and having the laundry chute, I can hear perfectly everything in the basement. Either the dryer or washer door was slammed, and it was slammed so hard. It was really loud, and my stepdad and mom was home, so I figured, okay, that'd have to be one of them. And then about 2 minutes later, my stepdad came into my room and asked if I was in the basement. I told him no, and he said that he heard it too. But he doesn't believe in the paranormal activity or anything, so he just kind of shook it off. And once my mom was home alone, and my stepdad was out fishing, and I was with some of my friends, and she called terrified and said there were banging going on in the house, starting in the basement and sounding as though someone were running up the basement steps, banging on the walls as they ran up. She wasn't imagining this because we have 2 dogs, and they heard it as well, and they were going crazy at the bangs. My mom was so scared that she grabbed the phone and ran out of the house, and she called my stepdad to come home and even check the house out. And my cousin had stayed over one night, slept on the couch, and the next morning he was telling me that he heard what sounded like furniture moving across the floor in the basement. And he said he was so scared that he had tears in his eyes and couldn't even sleep. We also have a pool table in our basement that my mother claims she hears during the day sometimes while she is home. And it sounds like someone's shooting the balls with a pool stick. Now here's the scary part. Like that, all that other stuff wasn't already scary, but okay. My mom was goofing around one day, and she had my iPod on, listening to music, and she was singing loud, and she can't sing. So I snuck up on her and got my phone out that can do video, and I put it on her, and she finally realized and tried to swat it away. While doing so, you can see in the kitchen where for 1 second you can see an old man's face. I caught it on my camera, and he's only there for a second, and then he's gone, and it just kind of flashes real quick. Me and her were the only ones home during this time, and what's really weird is that the face has a peachy color like a real person. It's very clear it's an older man, and you can make out the nose, the eyes, and the chin, and it looks as if he's bald on the top of his head with a little hair on the sides, and we didn't realize we had caught it until about 2 days later when I was watching it, and I can even pause it right on the face. And I've done this and showed it to everyone, and everyone says it's a man. My stepdad still denies that's what it is. Does anyone have any advice? Well, it sounds like you got something following you is what it sounds like. It sounds as though you know, a lot of times when people are psychic to some degree or latently psychic, they will be, beacons to these wayward spirits or wandering spirits. And sometimes they just latch on, and sometimes it can just be, it can have maybe less to do with the psychic thing, but more to do with, you remind me of my daughter. You remind me of, my sister. This house reminds me of my home, or it was my home, or, something like that. I mean, spirits can choose to linger with a person because of those kind of reasons. Like they may be in a confused state, but that's the first thing they've seen that makes sense. Like that's something they can grab onto. And so they may just travel with them, moving from place to place to place. But I think it's probably more more in the lines of this person is just attracting spirits for some reason or another. And my advice would be learn how to cleanse, learn how to sage, and get some kind of belief, whatever that is. It's up to you, but yeah, that's got to be uncomfortable, especially being young. Being a kid, and I don't mean kid in a disparaging way, but just being younger, and being confronted with such things as that is just got to be double tough. I never had experiences when I was at that age. I really didn't. I didn't start having experiences myself until I was in my 20s. So my childhood was very much event free. So let's continue on. All right. So this is a popular place that this story has to do with, and it has to do with Myrtle's Plantation. And if you're at all enthusiastic about ghost hunting and stuff, definitely you've heard of Myrtle's Plantation. Chris Guy. Okay. I don't know who Chris Guy is, but good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. I see a bunch of people are in here. So thank you all for being here. So let's go to Louisiana on this one for the Myrtle's Plantation tour. I've always been really interested in ghosts, but I don't think I've ever seen one. But it's not for the lack of trying. That's probably a good thing because honestly, I get spooked really easy. But for some reason, I insist on doing things to try to scare myself. Growing up, I heard a lot of stories about the plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, called the Myrtles. As a child, all I heard about were the ghost stories. And as an adult, I'm also interested in the history of this place. And I had been to the house a few times in passing and had taken pictures, but what I really wanted to do was stay the night in this house. And it's a bed and breakfast, so it's not hard to spend the night there, but they do book rooms months in advance to stay in order to stay in the house. And well, last year my wish was granted when I got a birthday present from my boyfriend, and it was a gift certificate for me to stay the night for one night at Myrtle's Plantation. And he only had one stipulation. He was not staying with me. His quote was, "I don't know if I believe in ghosts or not, but I don't plan on finding out." So this was fine with me because I had many friends who were interested in going with me. And I called a friend of mine from out of town and asked her if she would meet me at the house for a night. And I called the next day to book the room, and their next opening was 6 months away. So I booked it and we waited. Now I could spend all day telling you about the history of Myrtle's Plantation. Between the history tour and ghost tour and what I've read online, there's just too much information. You can Google it and find out all kinds of things. But to start, we had a hard time getting into our room. The key would not turn to open the door. My friend went to get the guy working that day, and as they came up the stairs, the door just decided to open. We had a great time that night, and we took the history tour during the day and the ghost tour at night, and we stayed up late and walked the grounds at night, and we heard several noises. Some could be explained and some couldn't. The reason for my story is to show a picture I captured while I was there and to get some of your input on it. And I have several pictures with orbs in places where there was nothing shiny and no water around. And we got pictures that part of the photo was blurry, but not all of it. What I want people to help me with is a picture I took at night, and I see a face in this picture clear as day. And most people I talk to have said the same thing. A few people say they see nothing, but I don't see how. I'm going to attach the picture with the face and then a picture taken during the day from about the same place. And I also have a picture with the face I see cropped out so you can see the edge of the bridge for comparison. So I guess I'll try to show those for you guys. Let me drag this one over to here to put it on the portal vision. Oops, I shouldn't double click it. Okay. So Let me see. Maybe I should try to save it. So let me save these so I can blow them up a little more, if I can. Ooh, it's not letting me. Oh yeah, I can. Hold on. Save as. No, it's trying to save the whole page. Oh, I hate that. All right, I'm gonna have to show it this way. I can't make them real big, but here's the first picture, and this is the daytime one. So that shows the pond and the shore with the reeds and such, and then the building in the background. Now the next one, I didn't see the bridge before though. Oh, I guess this is the bridge right here. Okay. So the next one is here. Not sure. Looks like I don't know. I don't see anything really nebulous here. I don't know what this is, but I would assume it's a reflection from this. But let's see. Oh. Yeah, that does look like a face. Now that could very well just be matrixing. That's right here in the picture, the main picture. Yeah, it does look like two eyes, a nose, and down to a mouth, but then it kind of drops off. Now, that could also be two windows and a pillar in the background that's just out of focus as well. I wouldn't consider this conclusive, but it is interesting for sure. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. Let's see. I want to look back, and so it's right here. What is right there? Is that? I'm trying to put everything in perspective because the perspective did change in the second picture from the first daylight picture. They should have included the bridge, tried to get the same angle because that would help line it up. But so perhaps what they're getting is maybe these two windows, and this would be maybe play off as a nose being out of focus. So it could be these two windows are the eye sockets, and this may come across as a nose. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a stretch to say anything really because these pictures are two very different angles, but it is interesting. It does look like it could be a face, but it's hard to say. So it's interesting. It's possible. I'll say it's possible, but I'm not quite ready to say that that's definitely a ghost photo. I do have a call, so let me get to that. And this is area code 870. You are on the air.
Hey, it's Virginia.
Hey, Virginia. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Good.
You were talking earlier about the ghost helping or what the ghosts do and everything. And
Yes.
I wanted to talk about the time I called in and the ghost came to me at the river when my friend and I was
Yes.
having a picnic.
Yep. The one
eating lunch.
Yeah. The one that
Well,
didn't want to cross.
I didn't. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The one that didn't want to cross, right? He was plenty happy.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I never told everything that went on when we were there.
Okay.
I asked him, was there other people there? And we did talk about that, and he said there was, and they were like, he didn't mess with them, like everybody was in their own little bubble or whatever. He called it a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw, he told me there was two men there, and for me not to go around them, to stay away from them because they were mean. Two ghosts.
Uh-huh.
And I saw, and he might have told me there was a child there too. But when I was looking out across the field, kind of like towards the river, I could see like it looked like a little boy standing over there by the river.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we kind of got done talking to him, I did some research. We went on our phones and researched people that had died on that river, and just so happened a little 6-year-old boy had died right there in that park, in that river.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, right in that park. And so it kind of, of course bothered me because I kept seeing a kid standing over there, and it was quite a ways away, but I could just see it. And so we went around down to that end, the other end, and I just kind of wanted to walk down there and see if I saw that kid.
Mm-hmm.
So we're walking down the walking path, and it was really weird. It was like I kind of seen it, but like it ran to me, like I could see dark hair on this kid, and like it ran to me and ran almost like through me or past me really quick. And I just kind of stopped. I'm like, what is going on? What am I seeing?
Right.
And I wasn't sure if I actually saw this kid run past me or it was just really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, let me walk on down this trail a little bit further. And I mean, it was open down there, you know, it wasn't creepy or anything. It was pretty open. And I said, let me just walk on down here a little bit towards like where I saw him and try to make sense of it. So I kept walking down there, and I got the worstest feeling. I mean, like I felt like something bad was going to happen. And I told my friend, let's turn around, let's go, let's just leave. And so I felt like I was about to run into one of those or both of those guys, those mean ghosts that he had warned me about.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I felt it. I felt it really strong. And I didn't see them at all. I never did see them. But I could see that little boy. And so we went on down away from there and went to another little picnic area. And we were, I pulled up that, we were talking about Nicholas had the gray.
Right.
Was telling about that. And I was playing that for my friend. Well, the guy that had drowned, he came back up there and was listening to that. That was when I was telling y'all about I asked him, did he know where it was? And he's like, I don't know, but I don't want to go there. Well, so, I asked him some more questions, and, he said that those mean ghosts push people in the river.
Oh, God. Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah, because there's a walking trail right by the river, and, people fish there and stuff, and that's what he said. They push people in the river. And so, anyhow, I wanted to bring this back up again because I may be going back to the river tomorrow. Me and my friend are going to go have lunch, and we may go back there. And the guy that drowned wanted us to come back.
Oh, nice.
And so I was just like, okay, I've been writing down stuff that I want to ask him. And so if anybody else has any questions that I can ask them, post them on chat there for me. I'm going to make a list of them. And if I come across him, I'm going to ask him all these questions.
Just going to interview him. That's cool. I mean, what an opportunity, too. That's really amazing that not only have you become aware of him being there, but it seems like he's made himself available to you as well. So that's really cool.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it because, he sat there and talked to us for a long time before. I'm like, maybe I'll video it this time. Maybe I'll say, hey, let's take a picture together. Or, because he was just a cool kid, we joked and just like a regular person sitting there, So, I don't know, I'm going to try and get a picture maybe, or I wish I had like a really good voice recorder where I could say, hey, talking to this,
You have a cell phone?
I don't know.
Do you have a cell phone, though?
Do what? Yeah, my cell phone. Yes.
Cell phone microphones are actually incredibly good and pick up quite a bit, and a lot of people use those for recording their EVPs, so give that a shot.
Oh, good deal. I'll do that then, because if I come across him, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to record. I'm going to just tell him, because like I said, when I talked to him before, it's just like I'm talking to you,
That's really cool.
And, but yeah, one of our questions that we really wanted to ask does he help other people? Like if somebody, because people canoe through there all the time. It's a really heavy, popular place in the summer. Mm-hmm. Just wondering, what does he do? Or, like we were talking about, is he bored?
Right.
And, he loves it there. He didn't want to leave.
Sure.
But it's got to be boring when nobody else is around and he can't socialize with these other ghosts. They're mean. And then that little boy, I definitely want to try and find him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try and like protect myself from the mean ones and try and find that little boy, because I know I saw him, and he even said there was a little boy there, and I looked it up, and a little boy did drown right there in that river, right there on that in that park.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
If you could,
I really want to try.
if you could find
Mm-hmm.
if you could find him and cross
Yeah.
him, that'd be really cool. That kind of stuff
That,
really breaks my heart.
yeah, that's what I want to try and do. That's what I wanted to do that day, but like he ran, so I'm hoping I can get this. I just call him Buddy. We tried to get his name. It didn't like make sense. The guy, we asked his name, and we got a couple of different names. He said we like, what is your name? And he said, Stephen is my given name.
Okay.
That's what he said. So we try to look up people that have drowned in that river and try to find, but I'm going to try and find out more information, like when he died. I'm not sure if they remember years and stuff, exactly. I would think they would, but I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. I'm hoping we come across him again tomorrow, because he asked us to come back and talk to him.
That's really cool. Just be careful though too. You never know.
Kind of cool.
Sometimes they're not everything they appear to be either. So I mean, not that I'm trying to put doubt in your head, but I mean it's certainly something you got to be cautious of.
Exactly, and I have, I can feel that negative energy and stuff, and I felt it that day when I was looking for that little boy.
Yeah.
So he had warned me there was some mean ones there. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well,
yep. All right. Well, I just want to let you know about that, and that I was going to question some more. So if anybody in chat has an idea of a question or something to ask, then I'll do it.
Thanks.
And I'll report back to y'all.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity. That's really cool. And yeah, I would love to hear how it goes.
I will let you know.
All right.
All righty.
Thank you so much for calling in. It's good to hear from you.
Okay. Thanks, Brent.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm really, like with Deb and everyone else that has these abilities, I'm really envious of it. To have the ability to have that dialogue, I think is so powerful, and the things you could find out if you ever do run across a cooperative spirit that is okay with talking to you. It's one thing to try to get EVPs and even SB7 Spirit Box and other things like the Ovulus. Those are tools that are available, but sometimes the information you get is really disjointed and odd and doesn't really match the narrative at all. But if you were able to, on a psychic or telepathic level, to have those conversations, then there's no exertion on their part to have to generate enough energy to make that happen. They can talk, and it's really neat what psychics experience, that they actually have these dialogues, whereas the rest of us are just like, what is your name, and hold up the voice recorder, and hopefully you catch something and hopefully it's clear enough that it's convincing to other people as well, but to be able to have that dialogue is, I think, really extra special, and my hat's off to all of you people out there that can do that. It's not something I've discovered in myself yet, but I'm working on it. So let's get back to the stories here. Where are we at? We got about time. Let's see, where are we at with the time? I think I can get these last two short ones, and then we'll call it a night. So I'm going to read you two more stories, and that'll do it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And then, of course, tomorrow night, I just want to remind everybody, Mrs. Deborah Varner will be here on the show with me, and we'll be doing free psychic readings to callers of the show. So if you would like to take advantage of that, please call in early and hold the line. You may be on hold for a while. It's just the way it works. But I will answer them in the order they are received. So if you want to, call in quick, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a reading. If you call in at the end of the show, we'll do our best to squeeze in every call that's possible. But, a lot of times we end up running out of time, and those people that called in late just don't get a reading or have to figure out another way. So I do apologize. I feel bad when people miss their opportunities, but you really got to call in first. And I know that's, it's kind of like dances. When you go to a dance, nobody wants to be the first one to dance. Well, it's almost like nobody wants to be the first one to get a reading either. But after they start, then the phone lines just flood. So call in early and hold the line, and, it should be a great time. I really enjoy those shows. So this is West Virginia is where we're going now, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a couple of years ago, my family and I decided to go to Rich Mountain Battlefield, located in Beverly, West Virginia. When we arrived, we knew all the stories that everybody had been talking about the place being haunted, but the only time you would experience any paranormal activity would be at night. We arrived around 10 in the morning, and we had brought cameras and wanted to snap some pics to see if we could come up with anything. And we all split up into separate little groups and went in all of our different directions. And my brother, being afraid, stayed in the truck with my little 5-year-old sister who was asleep. Well, that's good. That's nice of you. I went with my mom and another friend of the family, and my dad went with his friend and his son. And you have to remember that this is where the battle during the Civil War took place. So it made it scarier for me because I was only 13 at the time, but my dad and his friend went and started talking about some guy named John Hart. And they said some pretty nasty things about him. And all of a sudden they heard someone coming out of the weeds near where they stood. And it sounded like they were being chased by a man, and whoever it was, chased them all the way back to the vehicle. Meanwhile, my mom and our friend were just standing around taking some pictures when all of a sudden we heard voices coming from the left side of the woods near us. And they seemed to be talking about something important because the voices sounded aggravated, but it was just too scary. We all met back up at our cars and discussed what had happened. At the same time, my brother chimed in and asked who was standing beside the truck the whole time while they were gone. And he thought it was my dad, who was with his friend over at the right side of the field, and we were on the left side of the battlefield at the time. And that's when we all got freaked out and left. And I haven't been back there since. Yeah, battlefields, especially Civil War battlefields, there was so much carnage and brutality, and talk about energy imprints. That place is tattooed with psychic energy. There's no question. All those places are. Next one is Massachusetts. I started to really believe that there was an entity in my home this summer when my aunt came over, and being the religious woman she was, she would never admit to believing in the type of stuff, especially letting it scare her. But this time it was different. I don't really know all the details, but I do remember it happened on a Saturday because she had come to visit from New York for 3 days and was leaving on a Sunday. I remember passing by the living room and seeing her crying with my mom by her side, and I didn't stop to listen to her or ask anything because at the time my gut instinct as I passed by just told me not to ask. So the next day, after my mom and I had dropped her off at the South Station in Boston, we were driving back home and got stuck in traffic, and my mom turned to me with teary eyes and gasped and said, "Jenny, your aunt saw him." The hairs rose on my arms. I knew who she was talking about. It was him, the one we had never seen but always felt. The footsteps on the stairs that stopped in front of my room. It was him, whom years ago a dog had been taking care of, also sensed and would not leave the front of my door and stayed up all night howling at nothing. My mom said that my aunt told her that he wasn't good and that he fed off of me. Previously, for like 6 months straight, I became severely ill. My mom and dad and brother were always witness to this. Every night at 12:30 or 3:19 a.m., I would wake up suffocating. The episodes would last a good minute to the point where I would turn extremely purple. And the doctors could not diagnose it, and after some time, they just stopped. I had never before related it to that. I'd always tried to shut it off, hoping that the eerie premonition feeling would just go away. After that day, my mom and I did everything imaginable. We burned incense, we sprayed holy water, and now that we remodeled most of the house, we haven't felt a whole lot. But now something else happens, something that hasn't happened since I was little. Now, as my grandmother, who share a floor and with me, tell me, I scream in my dreams. But the thing is, when I wake up, I never remember. Perhaps it's better that way. Maybe I'll share on my next post. I'd love the feedback. Yeah, there are these entities sometimes that they do subsist off of us. They draw something from us. What do they need? What do we give them? I'm not sure. Some people believe fear is a food of sorts for these things. Some people believe it's your literally your life force. Maybe it's the biological energy that we generate being in a body. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's got to be absolutely frightening. I mean, it's just like having a huge spooky parasite. It's just terrible. So that's the horrible things. And screaming in your dreams has got to be terrible. But not remembering it, I guess, is like the person said, it's kind of a blessing. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the bedtime stories for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the journey. Remember, tomorrow the podcast drops. So wherever you find your podcasts, please check it out. Again, it's special thanks to Revolver Podcast for making this all possible. You guys are great and amazing. Thank you so much. And thank all of you who, continue to support and encourage others to check out the show. It's definitely growing, and I have all of you to thank for that. And remember, tomorrow night, Deb will be on the show with me doing psychic readings for listeners to the show. That's only between 7 and 9 p.m. Pacific time. So call in, hold the line, and you're going to love it. She's just does an amazing job, and she's really, really quite incredible. It's a great opportunity. And remember, if you would rather not do a public reading, you'd rather have a private reading, Deb does those as well. And again, they are the most reasonably priced psychic readings you will ever find. Not only is she a top-notch psychic in this regard, but she is so reasonably priced. It's nearly free. I mean, literally. So definitely check it out. And you can get a hold of her to schedule a private reading by going to email. You can email purplemysticreader@gmail.com. Now, if you also have a ghost encounter, paranormal encounter, Bigfoot encounter, UFO encounter, whatever encounter that you'd like to share with us here on the show, please feel free to email paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I'd love to share your stories on the show. So please do that, and I'll be waiting to hear from you. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys, love you, and sweet dreams.